Close to
Stratford.
Toronto.
Oh, close. Okay, I didn't realize that. I should. I
Well,
don't. I don't know the geography up there. But so you're Eastern time zone. I had a feeling you were. For some reason, I was thinking, is she in England? I couldn't
no.
remember. But then I that's why I posed that last message to you the way I did because I thought I better make sure.
What time zone are you? Where are
I,
you living right now?
I I'm in Texas at the moment. I've been here for
Okay.
a little over a month after the
Okay.
the wild ending to last year. You asked me what? How did you put it? That was your. Uh, okay, let's just
I
say.
just said you took a sabbatical or you stepped
Oh,
away for a bit. Yeah.
oh yeah.
To go to
I
race.
took. I took 6 days. I took 6 days. I went on a
Mhm.
6 day sabbatical, and then I left Sedona on December 13th. Did not know where I was going. You know, wanted to see if I could find a place in Arkansas, and
Oh,
there was a huge storm, and I had to come to Houston to take care of something 1st of January. So I've got a realtor over there that is a light worker, and was
mm,
recommended by another realtor light worker. And so I think I'm gonna be able to work something out in May because I'm gonna have to be here through April. But I'm in
okay.
the Central Time Zone. So let's see what we got going here. Okay, we got 17 people in the house. We need another 30
Okay.
seconds. So everybody, let's just have a round of applause. Pamela Gerrand's in the house again. It's been a long time, but
Yeah,
I really, I don't know. I've always enjoyed talking to you, and
likewise.
I love your. Music is such a broad uh, potential of frequencies to
Mm.
experience. And I've been
Yeah.
making music with my brother Ty Hudnall, who's a maestro.
Mm.
So I mean, degreed music uh, study or what a person, whatever those are, plays several instruments, plays things digitally, which is really cool. So, but I've learned a lot about music, even though I've been a music buff my whole life. Uh, because what we do is we don't ever rehearse anything. We just get on and we
Mhm.
start, and it's just had this whole evolution. But it's taught me a lot in the way that he arranges things, and the fact that they're spontaneous makes it all that much better. And everything that we speak is spontaneous. When we rhyme or melody or rap or
Mm.
whatever you want to call it.
Nice.
But
Beautiful.
what it is, it's in the tones,
Hmm.
and the combination of tones and the notes, the majors and the minors. And I know nothing about music in terms of like that part of it, but I
Hmm.
can feel it, like the whole, almost like contraction to resolution. He explained one thing to me was like, why these beautiful songs always sound beautiful. They have a certain band of frequencies, and he was talking about the
Right.
difference of bringing in like distorted frequency, like you would see on classical music, and it'll go into like dun 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 dun, then it'll come out in this beautiful. But yeah, it's just taught me a lot. So the reason I bring that up is because your music, it's very unique, it's very original, and it carries so much coding,
Mm.
and it's not,
Todd.
typically something I would go listen to, because there's so much to listen to, and I wouldn't even found it if I hadn't, come across you. But yeah, I really like the way you put stuff together, and I know you've been doing it a long time. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, what you're speaking about is so on point for you and your heart and your lane and what you're here doing. Because music is the language of the soul. It is, it's good to have the training in the background and all of those essential parentheses of how we learn things.
mm,
And I have grade 8 piano and theory and all those things. And for years, I sang other people's music. I live in Stratford, Ontario, where I performed in musicals and Gilbert and Sullivan. And I have to say that that experience was always very joyful and exhilarating, but it was from about here up. And when I started to write my own music and it started to come really through the earth,
mm,
and it's very embodied and it's very much birth through me. So I feel like it's from my womb, my one point. So when I would start to sing songs that I'd written, it came from a deeper place. It came from a more embodied place. And I felt like I was singing from You Can See My Hands, but, from my root up. And I want to share, you've brought to mind something that Clarissa Pinkola Estes says that really speaks to me and why I still sing. She said to sing means to use the soul voice. It means to say on the breath the truth of one's power and one's need. To sing is to breathe soul over that which is ailing or in need of transformation. I love that. That's at the beginning of her. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, in her book Women Who Run with Wolves.
Run with Wolves, yeah.
Yeah, beginning of the story of La Loba, where she talks about the old woman in the desert who goes and lives in the liminal space and goes and sings over this skeleton of a wolf. And it really is a metaphor for the way we have put old women out, to pasture, and we think they have nothing to give. They're, as she said, they're dry and wizened. And yet it takes a woman all of the ages and stages to come into that crone stage, which really just means to be crowned with the ultimate wisdom.
Right.
And so La Loba, the wolf woman, starts to sing over the bones until they are furred and fleshed and revivified. And she has the power to sing to life this creature. And then it dashes off into the distance and into the horizon. It's said that that howl could be heard, I feel shivers, through all layers and densities, that this is the awakening of our true soul, is when we have lived and suffered and been on our knees and been outcasts. It really is the story of the Christed family of suffering, but holding true to what we know in our soul is that we came to love. We came here for each other. And as we get older, we don't diminish. We actually grow in our wisdom and strength. So that's that quote. I love that quote.
What she said.
What she said.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the crucible or something. We were talking about, and it doesn't really matter the linear time. Let's just say, well, from 2020, I mean, let's all face it, there was a huge energetic COVID or whatever you want to call it thing that occurred. And we look at this energetically in these communities and we understand it to the best of our abilities, that we understand nothing, but we take it and keep on transmuting and moving on. Part of what seems to be rising to the top now in different ways are people finding their voice. So both literally and figuratively singing their soul song in so many ways, like women that come on the show for the first time, like even the lady that was just on, who I'm sure, as she said, and like all of us have pretty much experienced, been ridiculed throughout her life, having these weird things happen. Is she crazy? But being in a space of that acceptance, which is created by self. And where I'm going with this is, I'm just curious, because you've been an artist for so long, and I look at art and life as an art as an expression of the inspiration of all that is. But do you, with all the talk, with all the work that we've done with the 10 years ending of the Mayan thing on the 21st of December last year, as we go into 2023, creativity seems to be a huge availability of potential for us to kind of forge the new grid. Are you seeing more people tapping into their creativity, and are you finding a shift in your creativity as we kind of clear the root chakra collectively?
Yes. A loud and holy yes to that. And the crucible that you're referring to, that this period that we all went through, I have called it many things. The chalice, the crucible, forged on the anvil, the chrysalis. really what the past couple of years have given us is this incredible gift of waking up from the ways that we were sleepwalking, the ways that we were showing up in a half-hearted way. And honestly, I know for myself, I never would have imagined the ruptures that I have experienced in my life, in relationships, and the losses, the pain, literally a shattering of my heart. And there was a
Wow.
time, yeah, I had big losses.
Now
In
this
fact,
was now this
yeah,
was I mean, because I know a lot of people, on or about 2012. I mean, there's certainly just a different, but you're actually talking about the last couple of years.
no, the last couple of years.
Wow.
And it was the divide and conquer mentality. And I know the way I've been describing it is that some of us came in and got a different memo. And the memo that we got said, be careful. And you know what I'm sure people know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, suffice it to say, it's about trusting our intuition, trusting our gut, trusting our body. And when the collective narrative just gets stronger and stronger, and the fear messaging gets stronger, we got this memo that I call it my inner tattoo. It's just like somewhere inside of me was this coding where pressed to my flesh was this integrity of choice that said, no, you mustn't cave if it doesn't feel right to you. You mustn't comply to something that in your bones,
Right.
isn't right for you. And so I say this because we all know what has transpired by way of relationships falling away, the messaging getting so deep and so strong that people just couldn't be in our vibration anymore, or because of the decisions we were making. It was the whole thing of the duality was so strong.
Mm-hmm.
And the gift that I know from being on my knees, and oh my God, the tears that I wept in 2021, late 21 into last year. And I experienced some deaths around me that shook me to my core.
Wow.
And that also gave me a gift because I really had to question, did I want to stay here anymore? Because it got that painful. It got that deep. I lost people to me that were so close to me. I didn't know how I was going to carry on. And the depth of that wound, it's like what I've really seen is as deeply as we experience the wounding in our life and the suffering that comes with it. And I say that by way of what we've allowed to crack us open. As deeply as we've been wounded, if we will allow it to shape us, that is how we can expand into our wisdom.
Yeah.
So I literally felt gutted. I literally went for months, um, more than a dark night of the soul. It was a dark season of the soul. And I went into this chrysalis and said, okay, how do I continue to love? Because I don't want to grow bitter and resentful. That's not who I am. So the gift of this was about creativity. And I, went to my singing bowls and my drum, and I sang out and I screamed out and I wrote out. I wrote a whole book of poetry that will never see the light of day
Why
about the
not? Oh my!
well,
It's probably like going to be like the Emerald Tablets. I mean, for the next generations.
right? Well, it was just like my guts laid bare that I had to
Yeah.
just get it on paper, and it was a catharsis for me towards the end of it. What I realized was I do want to stay here. I
Right.
love life, and the gift has been as deep as the contraction and the constriction was last year. About 4 months ago, I started to feel an expansion, and it was personal and planetary. By the end of last year, around the solstice, the 21st, and then that week between Christmas and New Year's, I started to feel literally the ground shaking beneath my feet. But it wasn't with something foreboding and fearsome. It
Right.
was like this new energy coming through where I kept getting these moments where I called it my grace moments of giddiness where I was like, I was feeling so much bliss and so much
Right.
joy that I had to really go into my heart and trust. And this has been the word. It's a word for everybody. Somebody's just saying, yeah, excitement the last 4 months. And so everybody's feeling it. It's like as deeply as we have been, shaped, and the ruptures and the
Mhm.
cracking of our heart, we're getting flooded with solar light and this energy. And we're literally, I love watching all of your guests because it's this amazing banquet of wisdom and intel, and people that have different ways of seeing and being and knowing. And we're all like the shiny glass bit in the kaleidoscope of God's mind, right?
Mm.
Every one of us is a color and a shape that we all need to be in that kaleidoscope to make it exquisite, right? So I've been listening to your guests, and everybody's feeling it in the past few months,
Yeah.
is that as we've been brought to our knees, so are we rising up and stronger for it. And actually, one poem that did come to me just in the past few weeks, um, I'd like to share.
Yes.
Oh, and I just did something. Did I just share it? I
No.
didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're good.
Okay. Because I want to just escape and still see you there. Okay. I did something. On Ecamm is somewhat unfamiliar to me there. So this is one poem that it feels like kind of the other stuff was the compost that needed to fertilize. And it wasn't something that, some of it may see the light of day. But when this one came, I said, oh my God, this is a poem for Todd. It's for everybody. But it
Mhm.
really feels like what I hear when you're doing your beautiful spoken word. It has a rhythm like this and kind of that tone to it. So it's called The Chrysalis.
Mm.
The chrysalis has been dark, a mythic unknown, a gift of revelation, unpacking old wounds, shifting and sifting, finding what is true, the silence redolent with frequency clues. Your true power is grace, it shines in your eyes. The rose of remembrance unmasks all disguise. Nothing will ever be the same. Love knows your name. Your pain is a power, a guide to reveal. The mind and the body know how to heal. Wisps of fresh wings, unfurl your brave. You are strong. You are ready. Love knows your name.
Mm.
We came to gather the fire of our soul, the embers of remembering the holy, the whole. We came to bury the agony of shame, to surrender, to listen, to lighten, to play. A new level in this mythic collective consciousness game. Nothing will ever be the same. Love knows your name.
Wow.
Love knows your name.
Wow. When did you write that?
That was just before Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're right. A lot of people, somewhere maybe 11/11, uh, like it was just like this fast and furious, especially from the summer. Just fast and furious. Burn, baby, burn. Stay on your toes. Do you know what I mean? It was brutal. I know a
Yeah.
lot of couples split up. A
There was a
like
lot of
you were
that.
talking
Yeah.
about, a lot of relationships of all kinds. A lot of people transitioning, uh, and then November comes and something started to change. I agree with what you said. You perfect explanation from what I've gathered on the shows and in my own experience. And then the solstice, and then
Hmm.
like this integration, and then all of a sudden we pop out on or about the first, and it's absolutely, I'm getting, it's time, it's time.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
like go run and do this. It's time. You're gonna. No, it's just time. It's time to walk the talk. Somebody said that about you at the very beginning of the show. This woman walks her talk. Uh,
Mm.
Judith Kuzel was on last weekend, and she
Oh, love
2
Judith.
hours, and it was phenomenal. And the
Yeah.
best part, she said, it's time to walk the talk. Uh, so
Yeah.
there's this whole, and I think I'm picking this up from you, that I'm picking up for myself, which is there's a whole new atmosphere here. This is not the same world. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not. And maybe there are other signs or whatever, but that end of that 10-year period was the 21st. Solstice was then, and then we go into the 23rd. I mean, 2023.
Right.
But it there's just some kind of knowing that doesn't compute, that would be considered atypical where we're coming from, but there's this knowing that everything is truly being reciprocated now. The game is
Yeah.
being flipped, the board's being flipped over, so
Yeah.
all this external stuff is simply distraction. But we are taking what was with us when we came in with us, including people, play, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's but,
Yeah. There's been this beautiful distillation that you're speaking to of what is true and what we need to focus on.
yeah.
What is really important and meaningful, and what the past couple of years has given us, at least it's truly given me, is a holy kick in the pants of carpe diem and what really matters. And I have found myself not being as distracted as I used to. Like there is a laser focus to this time because when we decide that this life is a holy and magnificent, exalted gift that we
Mm-hmm.
get here, what we've been dropping is feeling like a victim.
Yeah.
Victim, martyr, tyrant roles that we came into this lifetime feeling. The reason we have felt so drained and depressed and lacking energy is that our blueprint is to be creative. Our blueprint is to feel joyful, to connect with each other, to see what we can innovate and create, and the day lights us up. But I call it the cloak of shame. We all came in into the age of 7. You know, they talk about how when you're a little kid and when you're in your naturalness, up to the age of 7, a child is something to marvel at. And you know, we all feel a child's energy because
Mm.
it's so real and true. And they don't actually learn to please the parents until the ego really comes in at 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
But a child that's 5 or 6 is so in their naturalness. They hear music, they'll start to dance. They feel tired, they lay on the floor and they cry. You know, they're really connected to the truth of who they are. But then as we've all gone through our lifetimes, I call it the cloak of shame. Oh my God, I mustn't be, who I truly am because that's too much or it's not enough or people won't like me. And so we've been dimmed down and dulled by this cloak of shame that all of our parents inherited and their parents before them. And I feel like the love that is here now on the planet has come to annihilate, to help us just burn off this cloak
Mm-hmm.
of shame. Because it deadens us and it's not the truth of who we are. It is not. And to be creative, one has to actually enter into the space of the opposite of shame, because shame is the eyes that look outward like, oh, what's somebody thinking of me? I mustn't do that, too big, or they're going to be either offended or insulted or threatened or jealous or whatever. To be creative, you actually, in the joy of an exalted moment of creativity, you have no thought as to what anybody else is thinking. I so often, as other singers do, close my eyes because I want to go inward. I want to go to that place where I touch, where my heart, what you talked at the beginning about the music you make with your friend, your brother, it's singing you. The music is making you. You're not making it. So when you can go within to touch that place that is so potent and it's a co-creation with the divine, where you don't have self-consciousness, that is when
Mm-hmm.
the muse rejoices, because that is when we bring forth magic and
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true. When I first hooked up with him this past summer, uh, I've written a lot like you over the years, and I had a couple memorized, and actually I read them on my phone. Uh, but um, after that first session, as time went on, because it was all improvised, other than I had the words, right? So but at a certain point, he said, you got to stop reading those words, and I'm like, well, I'm not really that well versed in spontaneously, melodies, whatever. And he said, no, 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 we'll see. But this is part of what I was talking about. It's the nonverbal. It's the music itself. It's not a finished product. It's actually the power of that moment as it just keeps morphing and
Mm-hmm.
creating, through these, let's say, two energies coming together, whoever's in that vortex. But when you said the close the eyes thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find myself more and more doing that because we do everything live. It's basically rehearsals live,
Yep.
and it's what you're talking about. Everything leaves. You're in sync, and we're doing it like this, so it's not brought like you're in a studio. He's got the
Mm-hmm.
tech to where it's almost that way, but I hear on my end, the audience hears it right, he hears it right, but I hear, there's a what they call ducking, and it cuts out. So you really got to like pay attention. But my point is, closing the eyes is scary. But when
Mm-hmm.
you close your eyes and really just let it go and forget about everything, you hear even with the ducking, something happens. So I think that's something I'm going to explore. But I think also as an energetic or a physical representation of a metaphoric, that's really what we're doing because life itself is art.
Right. It is. It is. And the richness of the past few years, you asked about whether you felt there was more creativity in this time, or did I feel
Mm.
it? And I will say yes and no. I'm feeling it now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
2023, I hit the ground running. And it was like I'd been in this, the chrysalis. I was in that void space.
Mm.
And we go through those times when nothing seems to be manifesting, or
Right.
no matter what, you're throwing out, it's just not sticking. But right now, the energy is so alive and so magnetic. It really is about our emotional nature and all we've cleared out. Because I feel like the past couple of years was a gift of a really fallow field. And I know some people were very creative during the quarantine times. For me, I had moments of it, but it was actually a deeply fallow field where I recognized so many of the ways that I was just kind of sometimes doing add water and mix creativity. Oh, I
Mm.
did that before, I know it works. Or ways that I distracted myself or really wasn't listening to my soul. And there was a time of deep rest. And I think a lot of people can relate to this kind of undoing of what we'd known to be true. So, as all that undoing and shedding has happened, it's like we went through such a scrub down, and now we've come into this new year all shiny. And it's like we're excited to share. I wonder if other people are feeling this, that what we went through was so purposeful, and it's almost like there is an economy of effort right now, but yet the gains are so instant and magical. I have to say that I was having a really awesome day a couple weeks ago where I literally felt this joy in me. And I said, oh, wow, this is an amazing year. And I just felt this electricity and magnetism of like decades of work.
Mm.
Oh, the heavy lifting. And I had these moments where I had certain songs or poems come back, or moments where I really felt like I'd been feeding this deeper stream. And now the river was just flowing. And I heard my higher self say, darling one, you were born prepared. You were born prepared. And that day that I was feeling so joyful and just feeling in the flow, that was the day you texted me and said, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. You want to come on my show? And
That's the
I just,
same. That's Emer Emer Quintero from Ireland was on a few days ago,
okay.
and she said the same thing. We hadn't
Is
done
that
a show.
right?
We actually, when we met for the show a couple of days ago, she said, "You know, we did a show our first show exactly a year ago tomorrow." But anyway, she
Oh,
was telling me when we started the show, she said, "You know, you popped into my field, and I was thinking about you, and." A couple hours later, you sent me a message after a year, same kind of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of that. What would you say? Like it's evidence of
mm,
this kind of like blend of the physical, non-physical, where the synchronicities are taking on form. And I think
yes.
a lot of it has to do with those types of coincidences or what we thought were aberrations. They're really not.
Yeah, there's an aliveness in the field that, and what, there's always been synchronicities, but it just seems to be speeding up at this
Yeah.
point, and also a real clarity around what is meant to manifest and what is not. Like, at least in my experience, I'm sure other people have been feeling this too and experiencing it, that if things aren't in alignment,
Right.
they are not happening, no matter
Right.
how much, heavy lifting we do.
Yeah.
Not that I do much of that anymore, but even when you feel like it might be in alignment, I just love, this is what I love about being here alive at this time on planet Earth, where we have awakened to the knowing that we are collaborating with a higher consciousness that has a benevolent universe that so has our back, that how much worrying and insomnia and gut aches and just crappy relationships or just bad days are behind us.
Right.
Because, I mean, for me, what I know is if something isn't aligning, I trust. I take a step back. On days like I've been executing at a really high level lately, and on days when I'm doing too much and I'm rushing, my body just won't let me do that anymore.
Right.
A little
Right.
twang in my solar plexus, and I have to walk my talk. I stop, I put my feet on the ground, and I breathe. And then I sing, but I do a practice in that moment because I feel like our bodies right now are calibrated to a degree to which we can't we can't live the lie anymore without
Right.
paying the price.
Right. That's that's so spot on. And the whole thing about if it's not in alignment, it's just not going to work anymore. And it applies to everything. It applies
Yeah.
to the body, like people have talked about their diet like they never have before. I'll say that in the last few weeks.
Yes.
My food intake, just without trying to diet, without trying to, it's cut to like a third.
Yeah.
And what I'm consuming, and what I'm doing, and what the body's telling me, but also in the things that we try to construct, be it a song or a poem, like you were talking about, where you try to use your go-tos. Like I noticed that with Thai, like I have certain rhymes in my head, that end
Right.
in a Y or an ing, and I've done them for years, and it's like I get into that space and I can't do it anymore. I can't
Yeah.
use those words. I have to find new words. And then the other thing I noticed too, because we've probably done maybe 30 sessions,
Yeah.
uh, is even using the same patterns of melody or
Yeah.
phrasing or rhyming. Like something pops in my head and goes, "You've already done that. You got to do something different."
Right.
But you start
Right.
to learn all these intricate other pathways that can work. And again, I see this. I see that what we're talking about, or that part of it, as just a little micro of all the different
Yeah.
streams we have going. Ultimately transparency.
Beautiful.
Ultimately.
And you know what it speaks to, Todd? What I hear you saying is
Mm.
having the courage
Mm.
to risk being seen,
Oh my God. Oh
to
my
be
God.
vulnerable, to take a risk,
Yeah.
try something new, just be in the moment, and shedding that cloak of shame. Really, to me, we talk a lot in these groups, and um, I do, I know you do, about love and self-love and honoring. And really, what we've experienced in the past year is it's not just conceptual. This is not just
No.
teacup. I love, what does
No.
Hafiz say? Teacup talk of God. No, we have had our feet to the fire. And what I have felt is I have had to experience detachment
Right.
from some of the closest people in my life that I love dearly, to the point where, as I said, it beyond brought me to my knees. It brought up every bit of abandonment, rejection, all of those shadow pieces. And the the what has come from living this is that we can read every book, take every course about detaching,
Mm-hmm.
letting go, surrendering. Those are all beautiful concepts. But when we actually have to live it, on the other side of it, we grow this musculature
Mm-hmm.
of the most profound compassion. I love that Pema Chodron, the beautiful Buddhist nun, do you know Pema
Mm-hmm.
Chodron?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who wrote many books, including When Things Fall Apart, that I've read it so many times it's fallen apart on my bedside. It's like falling apart. And she talks in that book about, we are complex creatures, we humans, and we're not just one note, we're many notes. And she said, we need both inspiration and wretchedness. We
Mm-hmm.
need our inspiration to energize us, to inspire us, to exalt us, to get us out of bed, to invite the conversation that we're having right now with another person. That's our inspiration. That's what Barbara Marx Hubbard always used to call vocational arousal. I love that she said, I'm over 50, I'm in regenopause, and I want to make so many things. I can't make babies anymore, but I have vocational arousal. I love that. And this is the thing that we are feeling when we're inspired. But when Pema Chodron says we also need our wretchedness, and that's such a word, right? When you hear the word wretched, you can just feel yourself in your bathrobe, with your face, from pale from crying. And when you've been through that moment of wretchedness, she says, that is when we really become humble,
Mm-hmm.
and we own the humility of Yeshua, of all of the avatars who suffered so much in living from a place of the integrity of compassion, love, mercy, never giving up, no matter what was done to them, at them. They maintained and embodied that ability to forgive or turn the other cheek or just continue to love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when Pema Chodron talks about us cultivating that humility and compassion in our wretchedness, we have cultivated a heck of a lot in the past couple of years, because there was a lot of wretchedness that we
Oh
went
yeah.
through.
Yeah.
A
Well,
gift.
you can hear it in your words, and everyone I've talked to, uh,
Yeah.
almost to the, I would say to the last person, in people that were high frequency like yourself, balanced, and it's like, I mean, it was in a good way a bloodbath, but
Yeah.
again coming out into, and I think part of the awareness, the awareness we look for, a lot of it's way out here, right? Oh, where's my home planet, or what's my angel, or, but the awareness of what you're stating, which I think people are coming into, which is, man, we've done a hell of a job, and
Yes.
and we're not kind of like on our heels anymore. We're actually stepping, and in fact, been stepping forward, and really didn't appreciate the extent of our efforts until now, because we're starting to really see a common thread, and it's tied to abundance, multi streams of abundance. It's a way of life, and it's happening as the distortion is getting louder, but the distortion is less and less a part of our lives, and as
Mm-hmm.
within without. So the more that we can come together and like view you a video of you singing a song from this space, or so many other things, conversations, uh, we're anchoring a
Yeah.
new reality within ourselves, and it's universal science. I mean, universal math. It's going to as within without, and it's already happening. We just haven't really been able to see it, but I think we're seeing it now.
And as you're talking, thank you. That was so beautiful. And that celebrating how far we've come,
Mm-hmm.
what we've been through. I just am so drawn to just hug myself and rock.
Mm-hmm.
I call it, the time we're in is the great remothering.
Mm-hmm.
And the remothering I'm talking about is for ourselves,
Yeah.
remothering, reparenting, refathering ourselves. There's been eons of looking outward, and there's a place for psychotherapy and journeys where we look at our past and things that shaped us, and in our lineages, legacy of trauma. And yet, what I'm really feeling right now, I keep talking about this economy of effort. And what speaks to me right now is that the date, you gave me a series of dates to choose from, and I thought, Saturday the 4th. And I didn't even realize that the full moon in Leo is tomorrow until this morning when I looked at the calendar. And I think about the time that we're in when I think about a male lion and his female, and the incredible grace of the female and the sovereign strength of the male. I mean, if you just conjure up the image of a lion, don't we get this image of that economy of effort? I mean, they are the strongest, most powerful creatures, king of the jungle. And yet, when you imagine a lion in its stillness, you can feel the engine of its power there. I feel like that's what we are right now. And that this Leo full moon is really asking us to recognize we know everything we need is within us. We
Mm-hmm.
know we were born prepared. We know this divine blueprint we carry is one that is based in we're enough, more than enough. And yet, in our humanness, we all journey through these moments where we trip, we falter, we pull ourselves back up, we course correct. But I feel like this Leo full moon is really asking us to surrender our striving and our efforting, and that shadow masculine or feminine, like the shadow masculine of just pushing and efforting and workaholism, or the shadow feminine,
Right.
which is, you know, manipulative or victimhood, and trying to get our needs met in those, ways, kind of sideways. We are being asked to come into our true power. And the
Yeah.
music of our soul is singing to us now and saying, hey, guess what? 2023, from here on in, yeah, there is going to be intensity, and there are going to be revelations and disclosure that is going to it's going to rock the boat. Feathers are going to be ruffled. Um, Stuff's going to get real, right? But we know in our bones that we came for these times, and that we carry this dynamic, living peace
Mm-hmm.
within us. Can I sing a song, Todd, on that note?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let
Mm.
me mute.
Uh, what's that?
I'm just going to mute my mic. I got you on the
Okay.
mix.
And the only thing I'll say about this song is that it came to me. I find that, most artists are magpies. We like shiny bits. In our life, we'll walk along and it can be kind of a palette of gray and brown and a bit of blue here and or a bit of red pops out. But when there's a shiny bit, and I mean, for me, this can be a melody or a phrase or a quote that stands out, lights me up, gets my attention, and I go, oh, yeah, that's really good. And I tend to weave a tapestry with my songs of bits that I've taken, that I've heard. And one day, I was hearing the Dalai Lama speak, and I was doing a breathwork practice at that time. So it was both of those things. And he said, as you breathe in, cherish yourself and all that is. As you breathe out, cherish all beings that exist. And so that became an inspiration for this song. And I was going to Glastonbury, England to take part in a walk for peace. And I sang this at the top of the tour 6 weeks after it came through me. Can you hear a mother singing, calling us to love? Can you see the white flag waving? The time for peace is come. As you breathe in, cherish yourself and all that is. As you breathe out, cherish all beings that exist. Will you walk with me, my brother, though the road be long and steep? Come and take my hand, my sister. We will walk the road to peace. In the footsteps of our fathers, we will find our courage there, with the flame of love to guide us every step. Every step will be a prayer, and we will walk for our children. We will carry seeds of peace. We will walk together till the guns of war will cease. Come and take my hand, my brother. Though the road be long and steep, come and take my hand, my sister. We will walk the road to peace. And in the footsteps of our fathers, we will find our courage there, with the flame of love to guide us every step, every step. Every step will be a prayer. Can you hear a mother singing, calling us to love? Can you see the white flag waving? The time for peace is
Wow. Wow. That was so you were doing that while y'all were um, at this event? You were doing that?
Yeah, I was going to sing at a festival in 2015, in June of 2015 at in the UK, at Spirit Fest. And as you know, the universe does, a friend said, "Oh, you're going to England. You should meet this friend of mine who is a documentary filmmaker,
Hmm.
beautiful brother Leon Stuparich, who made a documentary film about the Dalai Lama called The Road to Peace."
Oh, wow.
So, a couple of months before I was going to this festival, my friend introduced me. We got chatting, and I found out that the Dalai Lama was going to be in Glastonbury at the festival. And this beautiful man, Leon Stuparich, decided to do a peace walk from London, England to Glastonbury, which took him 2 weeks.
Wow.
And he chose to go without money, as in days of old, with a begging bowl and a bedroll. Um, he asked if I wanted to do that, and I went, just nowhere to plug in my hair straightener.
You're like
I'm
me when
joking.
it comes to that stuff.
I,
As long
I
as
yeah,
yeah.
we have to make jokes. I had a full schedule, and I don't know. He's a couple decades younger than me. I might have done it when I was 35. But anyways, I said yes. I definitely want to join you, and I joined the walk. Oh, I'll never forget, from Wells Cathedral.
Hmm.
That Saturday morning at 7 a.m., I met he and four other people that were doing this walk. And we walked as the crow flies over fences and through pastures and past cows. And sometimes we had to turn around and change course. Was no GPS, just the tour in the distance. And so it took about 8 or 9 hours. We walked that day.
God.
And the mayoress of Glastonbury met us, and washed our feet in the town square. It was incredible. There were about 200 people that walked with us. I'll never forget, it was such a hot late June day that as we were coming up the spiral of the tour, there was a fellow at the bottom that had an ice cream truck. And he said, "What's going on?" And we said, "Well, we're doing this walk for peace." He says, "Well, how long have you been walking?" We said, "All day." He said, "You need a free lolly." And he handed us all ice creams. And, I'll never forget that ice cream that day. So we got to the top of the tour, and Leon did this beautiful ceremony. And one of his friends, this beautiful Welsh gal, this beautiful young woman, sang this incredible song, and words were spoken. And I told Leon I got that song. It came to me about a month before I left. So I sang that at the top of the tour, and it really was, there are days that stand out in your mind as a highlight reel. That was one of them for sure.
Wow, that sounds so magical. And
Yeah.
the piece, it reminds me. It reminds, for some reason, it takes me to, um, like Hopi, like the
Yeah.
Hopi, like the Hopi prophecies talk about
Yes.
um, the reunification. Obviously, peace is a huge thing. The Hopi Navajo, I think Navajo actually means the people of peace. But anyway, it goes where, this is be like in the 20s and the 30s. The Hopi indigenous leaders and other indigenous tribe leaders were trying to let the world know of the prophecies that they were receiving about this
Right.
time. And they had all
Yeah.
these different things that this is when this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. And all those things have happened, as we know. But the reason that song takes me to that, because they talk about the time when the four colors that were created at the beginning of this phase, yellow, black,
Yeah.
white, and red, how they all had one piece of the elements and one direction, and how they
Right.
all come together. And I don't know why, but like that, maybe it was that drum beat, of course, your voice, but I mean, the words, like
Hmm.
the combination of all those frequencies. That's what it takes me to. It takes me to what has been, prophesized for this time. Um,
Yeah. It's the rainbow tribe prophecy for sure. We came for these times. And for anyone that's watching right now or may come to the replay, take a moment to really feel into what you said, Todd, of how far you've come. And for anybody that's still really in the depths right now, I send you so much strength and soul purpose, because knowing that you're going to be okay. Listen to my
Mm.
throat. I get emotional because the last 18 months, I've been through some gauntlets in my life. Um, don't know that I've ever been through one quite as intense as this one.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
And
That's
mythic, actually.
that's saying a lot. Given that, I mean, that's a. So you don't look. You're no worse for the wear. You look like you came through it.
Should have seen me 10 months ago.
Well, this is the thing. Ever since, because we had a pause with the Soulogy Fest. We did have a pause. We're like, I think for 3 months we were doing like 25 shows a month. Because we
Yeah.
were all over the place. But when I kicked it back up in September, we did about 240 shows through December 12. Uh, the people were coming on, and you could see it on their face. You could see the humility, the humanness, but you could see that they'd weathered the storm. You could see it in
Yes.
their
Yes. Yes. Yes.
countenance, in their aura.
Yep. Yep.
So I think
Definitely.
somebody said that at the very beginning. You hadn't said 12 words, and they said this woman walks her talk. And I
Oh,
think that was just coming from the energy. But again, it's so good to mix and merge and share, because this is how we're expanding the code.
we are. And, it's interesting. I think there are many of us who have walked our talk for a long time, but it has come at such a great cost at times that we retreated. I know for
Yeah.
myself, the learning has been so deep. And what's really come to the fore right now is something that I wanted to share as well, about something that's current for me, that's part of this expansion and kind of, out of the chrysalis getting my wings, is that while I was in one of the deepest, darkest points of this April of 2021, a woman that I'd worked with quite a few times in California, I hadn't done a reading with her for about 5 years. And she said, Whoa, I had all sorts of things happen. I had like all my social media accounts hacked and deleted. I was trying to be, there was just basically, they were trying to cancel me. Some energies that didn't want me. We go through this.
Right.
Those of us that speak our truth and stand up and we
We
don't
just
give
got
up.
back on YouTube like a week ago.
Okay. Oh yeah, all of that, right? It got bigger and bigger. And she said, ever since I met you, you're one of the strongest sisters of the rose I've ever met from the Magdalene family. And I said, I've heard of that. Tell me more. So, it's coming on 2 years ago that I really deepened into my knowing of what this rose lineage is. And Richard Rudd in Gene Keys, in his beautiful Gene Keys book, when I did my hologenetic profile, I carry as my soul purpose Gene Key 25. Do you know the Gene Keys book? I'm sure you do.
I know what it is. Yeah, I've had
Okay.
the whatever that you just said. I know Morgan and I had it done. We both had 22s and 55s in the five numbers. I remember that part.
Okay. It's a brilliant book. And each one of the 64 Gene Keys has three parts to it: a
Mm-hmm.
shadow, a gift, and a
That's
siddhi.
right. That's right. Yeah.
And this really spoke to me, Todd, because it was like, oh my God, this just made sense as to why I feel like so many of the ways that I felt like I'd not figured out, or how I'm supposed to be here on the planet, or why do I keep making the same mistakes, or why do I trigger people, or, the suffering, and when I read Gene Key 25, the shadow is constriction, the gift is acceptance, and the siddhi is universal love. So the constriction is basically when we are in fear, and that ultimate constriction is it's being feeling separate. When we're in our ego, in duality, feeling separate from each other, from ourself, from God, we literally cut off the breath of life. And
Right.
so the gift in that Gene Key 25 is acceptance. Now, that is what I learned in the past 18 months,
Yeah.
because I actually had two people leave my life that I didn't think I could survive them leaving my life. And I had to accept that there was something happening that was bigger than I could know.
Mm.
And in that acceptance, here's a woman who wrote a song called Love Is All. How are you to know the depth of that other than to encounter when the tide goes out and it seems to take your loved ones with it? Wow, that is when you contact the love within that has never gone anywhere and never will. And I actually realized that in that letting go, I let go out of a lot of codependence and my own shadow manipulation, familial stories, hooks, go, 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 accept, accept. So that was the biggest gift for me in 2022 was acceptance.
Yeah.
And Richard Rudd says in The City, Universal Love, which was reflected by this woman who was a psychic who said, "You're one of the strongest sisters of the rose I've ever met." He says, if you carry this in your hologenetic profile, you have come here carrying the blood of the Christ in your DNA, and you will suffer more than others. You will likely have experiences that would have killed most people, would have taken them out. But it came to shape you so that you could be exalted by these experiences and then come to teach from that place of knowing.
Yeah. Yeah. The way out, so to speak, is the code, and that's the
Yeah.
gift that we're gifting the universe
Yeah.
now, like at this point with our consciousness, with our awareness of ourselves. Um, it's very true,
Yeah.
and it's amazing, um, because it has been. I was thinking about this. I think we were talking about this on the show yesterday, and I think the person said it hurt my soul, and I said, we did hurt our soul. To me, anyway, that's in that moment I felt like, it wasn't just the human here, the soul
Oh, did you?
actually.
Oh, hurt the soul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like, I mean, this was, you said something earlier. We kind of like we know what we signed up for, but somebody didn't
Yeah.
send us the memo. Um, but it's fascinating to think about the potential. Now, consider all the different mediums around the world. In terms of information, internet, TV, whatever. This stuff's not being talked about. It's really not. If you
It's
look
not.
at the disclosure platforms and conspiracy platforms, they're talking about things that are being hidden or being revealed, whatever. And then if you look at a lot of the, I marvel because I saw a couple of people that have actually been on the show. One of them's been on the show, and I saw it on I want to say Gaia or Ancient Aliens or both,
Mm-hmm.
and they're telling their story, and I'm thinking, okay, there it is. But everyone virtually that comes on this show, 4,000 episodes, is telling the same story. They
Yes.
have past memories of who they were in a past life, or they have visitation, or they have. Almost everyone that's ever come on the show has said, I was born with it. And then I
Yeah.
lost it, and then I came back. But as we get into the home stretch, or what appeared to have been the home stretch, or the final squeeze as we got into this 2023, it's
Mm-hmm.
the most human, uh, you know, recollections and the tellings of the most human things that carry the
Mm-hmm.
most power. So, like listening to you, not knowing the details, but you can feel it. Like you went through, and I think a lot of people did. In fact, you said April 2021, so that's when Morgan and I had to physically split.
Interesting.
We both didn't understand it totally. The human was like in total fear, and but what you said is how I think it was approached, and how I think we're all approaching it, which is love is free. And if you really love someone, so these two people that
Mm-hmm.
we're referring to, I've got similar situations. I'm sure other people do. The reality is, you're never apart, and love is free.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we want to hold something back, at some point the dam will burst. Kind of like us here. Like there's a lot of narratives that we were being suppressed. We should have woke up 250 years ago, whatever the case is. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. What matters is we're coming out. We're here. We're anchored, and now the physical manifestation of coming out in a world that's upside down, from our perspective, is going to be quite fascinating to see the perceived nominal, minute, crazy, fantasy group, the real 1%, come out and
Yeah.
turns
Yeah,
into the
maybe.
99%. Or it's really the
Yeah.
99%, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, I really think we should probably get together sooner than we did this past. I mean, that's probably on me, but yeah, I'll certainly, if you're open to it, reach out to you, later in the year and have another
Yeah, for
visit.
sure.
I want to show everybody real quick. I want to show them your website. Okay. So this is PamelaJaneGerrand.com. Is this the right one, right?
It is.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I just want. I heard you
Yeah.
sigh. I heard you sigh. I went, oh my god. I hope. I should have
Oh
asked
no,
her.
you do. The sigh was this is on my to-do list.
What?
My tech fellow who updated my website, yeah, he had to move on last year. And
Uh,
if anybody's listening that knows
uh,
WordPress, I need to update it. Is why I'm sighing, because I'm realizing it still has, it needs some love and some bringing into
hey,
this new
don't
year.
don't feel bad. Our website has not been updated in a long time.
Yeah,
Marina
well,
Marina Govier did a heck of a job. It's a beautiful thing. It's just I've got it open on my windows here, but I
yeah.
every day I just kind of go past it. But yeah, I get it.
It's just an alignment thing. And
Mm.
what it is how shall I say this? When you imagine a wheel with all the spokes on it, last year and the year before, for well, the past several decades, I've had three spokes lit up as my way, my offerings in the world. But in the past 6 months, there's so many spokes that are lighting up, and I'm finding that, so my website just needs to catch up to my
Yeah,
energy, because
yeah.
I'm blossoming. But I wanted to say that my music is on there, and people don't buy CDs much anymore, and of course people can download. But what I created this a couple of years ago, and it's very cool. It looks like a cassette, but it's a USB
Oh wow,
that is my entire music collection, three original
wow.
music CDs,
What a thing.
a chant CD with the Mahamrityunjaya mantra on it.
Uh,
And it's got some poetry folders. If you go to shop on the
shop
toggle over to shop, yeah, and go down to, oh, no, that's not it. Sorry.
music.
Music. Yeah. Oh,
But
there. It should be there. Yeah.
oh yeah,
There it
yeah.
is, that little pink thing at the bottom. So it's got the
Oh,
little
this one right
background. So
here.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool.
So that's my entire music
How did?
collection. And yeah,
Dang.
I've got like the albums I've created over the past 20 years, Tripping on the Truth, Coming Home, the Chant CD, Pray Rain, which David Kalmusky, he's now a Nashville music producer, is one of my favorites. And The Sound of the Dove, my last album I made with a beautiful musician, Mark Lalama. And it's such an ethereal, the tracks are longer, they take you on a journey. It's a really intimate album. And I also have poetry folders. So yeah, get
How
my
did you how
music.
did you come up with that cassette flash
So
drive?
you know what, Todd?
Huh?
I have been
Who?
writing poetry for the past decade, and I decided a couple Christmases ago, like 3 years ago, to make what I called wearable power poetry T-shirts. So I was putting a poem on a T-shirt, and the company that I went to online had these, and it said, "Get this for Christmas." And I
That's
went, "Yeah." So
crazy. That's just crazy. I
selling these.
love it.
You want to hear the funniest story? The funniest story was, I had a friend who bought one of these for a friend in Germany and sent it to him at Christmas and didn't send a note. And the dude went out and had to go to like a vintage store and bought a cassette Walkman because he thought it was a cassette
Oh
player.
my God! You got to be
He
kidding
said,
me.
"Oh no, it actually, I should have told you, it's got a USB, flash drive to stick into the
Oh
computer."
my God! That's hilarious. That's
Anyways, and I
hilarious.
want to tell people, speaking of the Sisters of the Rose, the gift of June of 2021, one of the things that happened was I had a fall in the forest on a beautiful June day, and broke bones all on my left side, of course, which is the feminine side, my
Are you?
elbow,
When was
rib.
this?
June of 2021. That was in
God,
my
you
crucible.
you had it.
Yeah. It was, so I was bedridden for a couple of months recovering. I had a cranial injury, cut my face open. I mean, I'm lucky I've healed from all this.
Wow.
My right ankle was dislocated and I was literally torqued into the ground. It was, my husband was walking with me and he said, "Honey, it looked like you were pushed." Like I just went down.
Wow.
So that was taking me into the full rest that I needed to have
Right.
that summer.
Right.
And the gift that came from that was a friend of mine, actually. I think it was Sarah Adams who introduced me to you years ago. It was Sarah who introduced me to you. She sent me a link when she knew I was healing and in bed. She said, "You got to check out this woman, this amazing sound healer, Anamani Santos." So she sent me the link. And you know how sometimes I didn't listen for a couple of days and she wrote back and said, "Did you listen?" I said, "I didn't." She said, "You must."
Hmm.
So I listened to this beautiful meditation on the Enlightened World Network and I immediately knew who she was. She is my sister from another lifetime. She sounded familiar, and yet there was just something, a quality that immediately drew me in. And I ended up meeting with her that summer on Zoom. I took a mentoring course with her, her Soul Love Mastery. So I began as a client, and 6 months later, we knew we were soul sisters. And so we've been working together the past
Wow.
6 months. She lives in the Philadelphia area, but she came to Canada. We co-led an amazing Sisters of the Rose retreat in Ontario last fall.
Wow.
And the women on the third day of working with us, because I have to say, there is something completely unique about my connection with Anamani. And we're both sound alchemists. But yet what we bring is different, that it's beautifully complementary. So suffice it to say that at this retreat, we were, it was the first retreat I had done since being in, COVID and quarantines. So there was a rejoicing in being together again. But all of the women that were there could feel this was something very special that was unfolding. Day 3 at brunch, they are all looking around at each other and going, "When's the next retreat? And where will it be? You need to evolve this for other women," because it was magical. So we got chatting, and early January, well, actually, I started in December, we started putting together a white rose flame retreat for
Mm.
women in Sedona. So it's happening April 26th to May 1st. We
April
just launched,
26th to May 1st in
yeah,
Sedona.
in
Cool.
Sedona. And we have 2 beautiful Airbnb homes that I found. Literally every piece of it has been guided
Wow.
by,
Wow.
higher self, beyond, in flow. And we have a beautiful vegan chef. And we just launched it actually a week ago today. And in the first week have had 5 women register. So there are
Wow.
7 spots left. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. I
It's
like that's, I think, another thing that we're learning too is bigger's not better, or conventional's not necessarily better. There's a lot to be said for, both the Soulogy Fest were 100, around 100 people.
Yep.
People coming and going. But I mean, yeah, there's something about that, the intimate part of true connection, I guess. And the fact the way y'all
Yeah.
came together, I think, is really powerful. That's a powerful thing.
Right. Well, and this is the part we talked about, is that I immediately got the hit when I was looking at houses in Sedona. Well, first of all, I have friends that I've worked with there before that said, "Oh, that late April, that's the, high season in Sedona.
Yeah.
You really need to book a year in advance." I started looking in mid-December, booked it the 4th of January, and my intuition said we need 2
Mm-hmm.
properties. So not one, that wouldn't be big enough. And so we were guided to exactly what we need. And they're both south of Sedona proper, like literally located in the center of all the vortexes. Cathedral Rock, Bell Rock,
Are you in
Timber.
West Sedona, or are you in?
Um, Might I don't know if it's called West Sedona, south of Tlaquepaque. Is that
Oh,
West
you're
Sedona?
south. Okay, no,
Yes,
you're good.
south. Like
Are you
like
in?
literally
Are you in Vill?
north of Oak Creek, but
Okay,
south of
okay, I got you.
Tlaquepaque.
I know where you're at. I know where you're at.
Yep.
Yeah, my
And the properties have views. Like the
yeah.
one
Oh yeah,
property,
it's crazy. My
view of the
yeah,
canyons. It's so exquisite. So all I know is that this is what I'm talking about when things are aligned. It's been
yeah,
happening with so much ease and grace. So this part, we talked about this, about how big we wanted to go this time, because it's, a little bit bigger than last time. We had 10 of us last time, but this will be 15 with Anamani, myself, and our assistant. But to really deep dive and the transmissions and activations that we're going to be bringing through, we want the women to have a chance to share. And in a group of 30 or 40, you don't have as much time
yeah,
for the personal
yeah,
attention sharing.
yeah.
So this is where we're at right now, and it will grow. We do have another destination for 2024 already in the
Cool.
works. Yep. Yeah, it's going to be great.
That's awesome. This is
Mhm.
awesome. New creations with the new Trinity components. No more dualistic stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, this is cool. Hey, it was really good seeing you.
So good to see
You
you,
know,
Todd. And I want
this.
to say on that note,
Hmm,
yes, the trinitized energy, and really what it is living from this place of the embodied love that we are.
yeah,
And we're really modeling, Anamani and I were talking about that, this trust that, just coming together as women to support each other. And I have always done things with women and men. These retreats right now are women's retreats, but I really feel like, whatever I'm doing and wherever I'm walking in this world right now, we are going beyond any of the limitations, the boundaries, the roles, the labels. And love doesn't have a gender or an age or a color, a shape, right? It's this expansive quality of this exalted divinity that each one of us is, and we are feeling it absolutely to our bones right now. And there's a joy that's guiding us to our next steps. And it just feels so, yeah, it feels like a celebration. That's what you said at the beginning. It feels like that heavy lifting, we are
yeah.
being shown that we are never alone. And when we are doing things for the highest good of all, in service to the whole, and for our own joy, you know, we're just naturally energized and inspired, and we can't go wrong. Right, my
That's right.
brother?
We showed up too. Hey, we
And
just got to. We're just this. It's like this is. People say, "Oh, this is why we came," but this is why we came. And
yeah,
I love the open endedness of it too, because it's not like, oh, the prophecy is that it goes this way. I don't know. To me, it's more like the prophecy is the potential will be presented to you all at this time for your yeoman's efforts over all these years and
yeah.
incarnations, and what do you want to do with it? I personally, I want to create a new universe. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know. I mean, yeah, I saw this picture the other day, and it looked like It looked like, and I look at everything like with Morgan and I, right? So there was like this, almost like this beastly looking essence that was in the stars, and then there was this angelic looking feminine, and they were like looking at each other, and it was a picture. It was a picture of of a it was either a star or a universe being born.
Right.
From the Hubble telescope they
Oh,
had just
wow.
taken. Yeah, and I was like, whoa, that's what I want to do. I want to go. I
Oh,
want to
and
go. Yeah.
as you just said that, it's really echoing and mirroring something that came to me last week
Mm,
around, can I do that?
mm,
Can I really do that?
mm,
And I kept hearing higher self, my team saying, yeah, of course. And I was hearing, you know what? The past few years had you so, in a corner,
mm.
sheltering in place, however the ways were that we were in that fallow field, we kind of lost our connection to the night sky. and the stars and our dreams. And I heard dream bigger, dream bigger. We want you to soar and to shine. And I keep hearing, we came to rise and shine together.
Mm.
And I heard as you were saying that, just that, like, the glass ceiling, however, we've had this limit that we place on ourselves, and we co-create with others when we think, oh, I can't do that, or people see me as that, or that's just been blown off. And right now in 2023, I see that glass ceiling wide open, and I can feel that celestial convergence of this, what's next for us, and the Milky Way showering us. It's unlimited, and
Yeah.
we're finding, and you know what I'm finding
Mm.
is that I have more energy this year than I've had in 3 years. And that's what's energizing and inspiring us, is our gratitude,
Yeah.
our awareness to come back to the body when we're doing the old things, like working too hard or rushing or not paying attention to what the body needs, or getting stuck in the old patterns of wearing that cloak of shame, letting other people influence us. No, no, no. We've come into this year to step onto this exalted higher ground
Mm.
and take a big old breath and go, wow, wow, these are beautiful vistas. I'm going there. Who's coming
Yeah.
with me?
Yeah. Like DJ, give me a beat.
Yeah,
We got.
time to dance. Yeah. Thank you, Todd. It's been
Thank you.
amazing. Great to
Thank
be
you
here with
very
you.
much. I'll see you again soon.
Yes.
And thank you for everything that you're doing. And
Mm.
congratulations on your transformation and sharing it with us so candidly and openly, because it's us that we're looking at. And yeah, I appreciate it.
You know,
You t-
we've all been through it. And if other people have felt that, then that's why I share, because we're not alone.
there you go. Take it easy.
Yeah. Thanks.